Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mission Driven podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Peter Nussbaum of CSGLaw and co-founder of Tamerlaine Sanctuary in Montague, New Jersey, right near the southern border of New York State. CSG is a full-service law firm, but Peter specializes in trademark, copyright, and internet technology matters. His clients include entertainment companies, musical artists, publishing and educational companies, cannabis companies, food, beverage, and hospitality, among many others. Interestingly, about 6 years ago, Peter and his wife co-founded Tamerlaine Sanctuary Preserve to create a paradise for neglected and abused farm animals, and have been caring for animals here and providing humane education ever since. Now the farm is over 336 acres of pristine preserved farmland, and they're creating a haven for animals for generations to come. So Peter, thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. I really am excited to have you on and ask you some questions and talk about your work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So first things first, why do you focus on trademark law? What about it appeals to you?
Well, after 30 years of doing it, I have no other choice. It's all that I know at this point. But seriously, it sounds geeky and nerdy, but I was passionate about trademark law even before I became a lawyer. In law school, it just struck a chord with me. Brands, logos, designs, I sort of grew up around that. That was the business that my father was in growing up. And so I was intrigued by it, and I liked the idea of practicing in an area of law where I could help people advertise, market, promote their products. And yeah, I think that's it. And I'm glad I made that decision 30 years ago to go in that direction. I've never looked back. And, I consider myself one of the lucky lawyers. Wow, the wind just picked up out here. Sorry about that.
Fine.
I consider myself to be one of those lucky lawyers that really does practice in an area that they are passionate about. And after all these years, I'm still passionate about it. And the subject matter of what we do is real interesting. We're fortunate to have a really interesting, fun client base. And so it's been good.
And I know, with the pandemic and the lockdown, things have remained pretty interesting in the industry. Is that right?
Yeah, we've been surprisingly busy. The two biggest areas that I represent, or the two biggest industries that I represent, are musical artists who obviously have not been touring for the past 7 months.
Right.
And we also have a lot of hospitality clients, and they've been essentially at a standstill, if not completely shut down. And so my first reaction when I figured out how bad this was going to be for the world was, wow, we're going to have nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the exact opposite has been true. All of our clients have been keeping us very busy. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that people have been pivoting and figuring out what the next move is.
Right.
In this new sci-fi movie world that we're living in. And so there's been no shortage of work, thankfully.
Awesome. Great. So I know law is a little bit different than you being on a farm, literally and figuratively. Can you go into the origins or the inspiration for you creating what you currently have now with Tamerlaine?
Yeah, sure. So my wife and I both grew up in New York City, her in Manhattan, me in Queens, and both of us in apartments. The thought of us being farmers or operating a farm was so foreign. About 20 years ago, we got a place up here in Montague, New Jersey, which really truly is rural farm country. We're only an hour and a half from New York City, but we're as far removed from New York City as you could possibly be. 20 years ago, we came up here because my father at that point was in a nursing home not too far from here, and we were coming up from the city every weekend to visit him. And my wife really wanted to get out of the city and at least get a weekend place. And she convinced me that it would be a good idea to get a little property up here so that we could spend more time with my father and not have to schlep back and forth,
right.
in one day. And so I begrudgingly left the city to get this place. And it was a weekend place, very much was Friday to Sunday, and we spent our week in the city. And gradually we grew more and more into being out here and less into being in the city, especially my wife. And we became really staunch animal advocates, not right when we moved here. I mean, we always loved animals. We always supported animal charities. We always went out of our way to make sure that whatever animal products we were consuming or using, that we were making as light of an impact as we possibly could. But then right around 2009, we became vegan and we stopped using animal products. We stopped eating animal products. And we became even stauncher advocates for animals. Still, we had no plan on turning our life upside down and turning ourselves into the founders of a farm animal sanctuary. But in 2013, Gabrielle, my wife, convinced me that it would be a good idea to adopt a couple of roosters. And we did. And within a matter of days, we were so smitten with these two boys that, our lives really changed. And thankfully, because the last 6 years have been the most rewarding, challenging, but the most rewarding years of our lives. The two roosters quickly became a part of the family. And if someone had asked me before we adopted these two boys, Yuri and Jupiter, whether there was a difference between our dogs and cats and chickens, the correct answer as a vegan is to say, no, absolutely not. There's no difference.
Right.
Chickens are just as sentient as dogs and cats. There's no difference between them. And once I had these chickens, these two roosters living at our smaller farm, our original farm, I was able to answer that question. For the first time, I actually realized that it was absolutely true. And just to give you an example, within a week of their arrival, they were taking all of their meals, not in their coop, not in their yard, but rather in our kitchen. They would line up for breakfast with our two dogs. We'd have 4 dog bowls down for the 2 dogs and the 2 chickens. After breakfast, they would jump up on our laps, jump up on the couch, hop into the dog beds with the dogs, and they were part of the family. And we made such a strong and profound, it was almost like an awakening that these chickens really are. And these chickens, chickens in general are the most abused and discarded farm animal. Once we made the connection that they were so loving and incredible, just like our dogs, we decided that we had this, I say small, but it was a 40-acre farm. It's pretty big, much bigger than our apartments in New York City, that's for sure.
Of course.
And we said, you know what, let's share this with people. Let's rescue a few more. Let's become a small sanctuary and let other people make this connection the way that we have. And it just grew from there to the point where 2013, 2 roosters turned into over 200 rescued farm animals by 2017. And at that point, we had essentially outgrown, or at least filled up, our original farm. And then the property that I'm sitting at now, this 336-acre property, became available right up over the hill from our original farm. And my wife convinced me that it would be a good idea for us to try to get it, which made no sense to me at the time because it's a historic farm that was part of the Underground Railroad. The house on the farm was built in 1774. It's only had 2 owners prior to us. And I knew how little money we had in the bank because running a farm animal sanctuary is incredibly expensive. And we've always been the biggest contributor to the sanctuary. So for us, it's a labor of love. It's a passion play. We've never taken a dime out of the nonprofit, nor do we ever plan to. But I knew how expensive it was to operate a 40-acre farm with some employees and 200 animals. And the thought of taking this on was overwhelming, to say the least. And I figured that they would charge us more than the $18 that I believed we had in the bank at the moment that Gabrielle said we should try to get this. And she was steadfast. She was going to get this property, and she reached out to a foundation, put together all sorts of reports and proposals as to why they should help us. This is a foundation that helps animal rights nonprofits, and sure enough, they came through in a big way. We were able to acquire the property beginning of 2018, and for the last 2 years, we've been transitioning from the original farm, which again is just over the hill, to this farm. We're finally fully transitioned all the animals here. We've rescued a bunch more animals, and as I said before, this is really I've found my calling. You know, I'll never be able to give up trademark law because that's a passion as well, but importantly, it pays the bills. And I jokingly tell people that I'll be able to retire when I'm about 200 at the rate that we're going with this farm. But I've never been happier. I've never felt more fulfilled.
That's awesome. So who are your biggest donors, or who are you looking to have donate either money or time or feed? What are your needs for the farm?
Yes, all of the above. I mean, we have some foundations that help us. We have some other animal rescue nonprofits that help us, but most of it is private donors, private supporters, and support comes in so many ways. We have amazing volunteers who come up on a regular basis and help us take care of the property and the animals. We also have, I believe, presently we have 10 employees who, you know, they earn a living working at the farm, unlike my wife and I, and we're very lucky to have them. We have a great staff who does an incredible job of giving these animals the best life that they can possibly have, and that's the animal's sole role here at the farm. You know, I talk to a lot of people about the farm, and usually they know that when it's a sanctuary, they know what I'm about to tell you, but for your audience, I don't know exactly who your audience is, so I won't take anything for granted. The sole job of the animals here is to live their best life. We don't use them for meat or dairy or eggs. They are, in every sense of the word, you know, rescue animals who have come to us from situations of terrible neglect, abuse, abandonment, exploitation. And so when they're here, we just want them to live their best life. And it's the job of ours and our staff to give them the best life they possibly can. And the only job that they really have, and it's a voluntary job, it's only for those of them that are interested in providing this service. You know, some of them could care less about people, but thankfully, most of them love people and love interaction. And so their only job is to act as ambassadors for their various species. And so when people come and visit the farm, our goal and our hope is that they will make the connection that we made with our first two roosters, Yuri and Jupiter, and they will stop seeing these animals strictly as a commodity, which is, you know, what most people think of these animals as. And we've had so many experiences where people have come and visited the animals and have said things to us like, wow, I never thought of a pig as anything other than ham or bacon or pork chops. And now that I've met Pecan and Tomo and Albie and Tiny and, you know, Magnus and Roman and all the different pigs at the farm, not only do they see them differently, but people will say to us, you know, I visited 6 months ago. I couldn't even think of eating a pig again. I couldn't even think of eating pork. It made such a profound impact. And, you know, our goal here isn't necessarily to, you know, turn the world vegan. That's not our goal. Our goal is simply to open up people's eyes, to educate people as to the plight of farmed animals and the horrific impact it has on animals and on the planet and on people's health. And, you know, we're just trying to do our little part here, and it feels really good doing it.
That's awesome. So I actually just recently watched a documentary, the name I'm forgetting, but they said when you're thinking about meat in terms of pork or bacon, you're not considering it as a pig. But now on your farm, you have names for all of your animals. So you can't say, you know, I'm eating this animal by name or that animal by name, because it kind of makes you feel more guilty, right? So I'm not surprised that people are now meeting these wonderful animals by name, which is a very nice thing to do, naming your animal, and now they don't want to eat it anymore. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is cool. You know, the names are important, and I think the names help people make the connection, but it's really the personalities that do even more than the names. You know, they all have unique personalities, just like dogs and cats and humans.
Right.
And you know, people meet these varied personality animals and really connect. We have a pig named Pecan who came to us from Rutgers University in 2016. The reason why he was rescued was because the student at Rutgers in their agricultural college who was charged with raising this pig, you know, part of the ag school at Rutgers, a course that the students take, it's sort of like an animal handling course, and each student is assigned a baby pig. And this particular student was assigned Pecan when he was a little piglet, and her job was to feed him and water him and care for him and grow him essentially. And she made the connection that he was no different than her beloved pets, and she would call him and he would come running and jump in her lap. And she was horrified when she found out that at the end of the school year, all of the pigs from the program go to auction for slaughter, and she could not bear the thought of Pecan. And prior to this, she thought of pigs as a commodity, just like most ag students. She thought of them as bacon and pork, but she made that connection, and it resulted in her taking steps necessary to get him here instead of to a slaughterhouse. And people hear that story and meet Pecan, and he's now about a 700-pound pig. He's 4 years old. It's a big Yorkshire pig, the type that people generally eat. And people can't believe how much personality. You know, you walk up to Pecan and scratch his belly, and he just immediately plops all 700 pounds of him onto his side for belly rubs.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the pigs, most of the pigs are like that. And so, you know, whether it's the pigs or the chickens or the cows or the goats or the sheep or the turkeys or the ducks, no matter the animals, people make those connections. And we really focus on animals here. We rescue animals that people generally consider to be food or sources for dairy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a shame too, right? Where people are looking at them as commodities instead of pets or people, not people, but companions. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But hopefully
Yeah.
this 100-pound pig doesn't plop in your lap. I feel like that would be detrimental to your health.
No, I tell people when I tell them that story when they're meeting Pecan that Pecan would jump into the young woman's lap. I explain that Pecan was about 1/100th of the size that he is now. So she was safe. If he jumped in her lap now, she would be probably no longer with us.
Yeah. Yep. So knowing what your day job is at the law firm and your every other time job is at the sanctuary, how does your practice and the sanctuary balance one another, and how do they work together? How do you make it work?
Yeah, great question. So I hate to say it because the last 6 months have been horrific for everyone, you know, us included. You know, we've had people that we care a ton about get very sick. We know people who have passed. We know many people whose businesses have been destroyed. And so to say that there's anything that positive that's come out of COVID would be, you know, a terrible thing to say. However, I will say that whereas I usually work in New York City and West Orange, the fact that I've been working remote from the farm has it's been incredibly nice. And so, you know, I am able just about every day to break away from trademark law and either do a virtual tour at the farm or do a Zoom class. We did a ton of interacting with students last semester in the spring before the summer. So many schools and teachers were starving for Zoom curriculum for their students. And so we introduced so many kids to the animals here, and we introduced so many people through virtual tours that would have never had the opportunity to visit the farm in person to the animals and to our mission and to educate people. So it's been a nice way to break up the day for me, and so I think it's a very rare work day that I've ever worked, you know, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. My hours are always, unfortunately, longer than that as a trademark lawyer, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it. You know, we're busy. That's a good thing. But basically, my days now, I get up in the morning, I start working as soon as I get up. I usually take a couple-hour break in the middle of the day and do something at the farm. And most of my role at the farm these days is, humane education and introducing people to the animals. And then I go back to work and usually work, unfortunately pretty late into the evening with the day job that's during the week.
Right.
And then on weekends, I'm going at it pretty hard as a sanctuary worker all weekend, doing tours all day. And so, not really answering your question, I'll get back to your question. And the answer is, it has been incredible not having to commute for 3 hours every day. It's been great having the interplay between the two and breaking up the monotony of just staring at a computer screen in my bedroom or my living room all day. That's been really nice.
Right.
And one other added bonus, we have one rooster, one of our elderly roosters, who's one of my favorite best friends on the planet. His name is Dottie. And Dottie came to us from a school hatching project back in 2014, I believe. And he's just a great guy. He's super, super friendly. All he wants is to hang out with people, sit on your lap, fall asleep in your lap. He developed a problem with his balance about 6 months ago and coincided with the beginning of COVID. So I've been spending a lot of time with him. And let's just say that Dottie is most often either sitting on my lap or right next to my lap while I'm on conference calls. And there have been many conference calls with opposing counsel or with clients, you name it, where Dottie likes to let out a cock-a-doodle-doo. And it's a nice way to let people know that I'm know what we're doing here. And so it's a great intro to the farm for people, because it's not always proper to mention to your adversary that your second job is caring for 230 rescued animals. But when Dottie rudely introduces himself, I have no choice but to let them know what we're up to, and so that's been fun.
That must be super fun on the other side too for them, because it's kind of mundane going through law and then seeing a rooster.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes trademark law, while it's not matrimonial law or some other areas that can get more contentious, we're known to get pretty heated with our opposing counsel from time to time. And I don't care how much an attorney on the other side doesn't like me. When Dottie cock-a-doodle-doos and I tell that opposing attorney what we're up to, they lighten up a bit.
Yep. I think it's a good tactic. Keep that up.
Yeah.
So what's your hope for the future of the sanctuary?
Yeah, so, we have all this space, and our mission not only includes rescuing animals, but we could never possibly fill up 336 acres with rescued farm animals. We would be doing them a disservice. We'd be doing the planet a disservice, because a lot of the property here is wooded, and just as much as we care about these domesticated animals, these farm animals, we care about the wildlife, we care about conservation and preservation. And so my goal here is to grow the rescue component a bunch, but also to grow the conservation and preservation component. Financially, our goal is to get to a place where we are no longer the largest donor, not because we have any hard feelings about donating all of our money, but we're not rich people, and it's just not sustainable for us to continue to be the largest donor. So the goal would be to get the farm, the sanctuary, to a place where our the revenue that comes in covers the operating expense. And again, not so that we can take a salary. We're in the lucky position where we don't have to take a salary. A lot of people who run nonprofits, they're not sitting in that enviable position. That's their only job, and I don't begrudge them. I think that's great if they can do it. I'm thankful that we don't have to do that. But if we can get to a place where our expenses are covered and we don't have to continue to put in our money, which we don't have any left of, that would be like hitting the lottery for us. Right. So that's what we're hoping for.
That would be awesome. So this is the question I ask of everybody that I speak with, but Peter, what is your mission? Whether that's with CSG or the farm, that's up to you how you want to answer. But what's your mission?
Yeah, I mean, my mission with the farm and, you know, my mission, it's an interesting question. Can I ask, I can answer it. My mission about the nonprofit, my mission with the law practice, my mission in life, I think they're all, you know, somewhat related. You know, we don't have a grandiose idea that we are going to single-handedly change the world, and we know that we're just a small cog in this, you know, huge, frenetic, strange world that we're currently living in. But if we can help make a dent, if we can help educate all the people that come into contact with us as to the plight of the animals and the planet, and you know, doing that in person. You know, we have the luxury of being so close to you know, the epicenter of the world. A lot of people think New York City, being an hour and a half away, gives us entree to so many you know, so many eyes and so many ears and so many hearts. And so if we can do our part in educating people and helping people make decisions that will make this world a safer and better place, not only for animals, but for humans, and for the environment, then I feel like I can finally get some rest when all this is when all this is over, and, you know, it comes to an end for all of us, knowing that I did my part. And I think that that's really all that any of us can hope for and strive for. So
That's awesome.
I guess that's my long-winded answer.
No, that's a perfect answer. That's super authentic, and thank you for sharing your story and kind of yeah. So thank you, Peter, for being on. I'll include a bunch of your information for both the law firm and ways to donate to the farm and help you grow your mission and help as many animals as you can in the best way possible. So
thank you so much.
Of course.
And please come visit.
I will. I'll come visit again soon.
Yeah, please do. All right. Take care.
Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Just a reminder that all the thoughts, opinions, and expressions are exclusive to the person and not representative of any company, brand, or organization.